Magnum, we just had a couple questions for you. First one is, what was your most memorable accomplishment in the wrestling business?
Ooh. I would say it's kind of a big question. Coming to work for Jim Crockett Promotions back in the mid-'80s and being involved with their march towards what became their empire when we went on the Superstation, and I first started chasing Ric Flair for the world title and got embroiled in battles with Wahoo McDaniels and Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard, Nikita Koloff. That whole little era was the pinnacle of my career, which was only a 6-year in-the-ring career because of the accident. But I had a couple milestones. Wahoo McDaniels, of course, legend in our business, and him passing the U.S. heavyweight title to me back in 1985 in front of a sold-out crowd in Charlotte Coliseum in a steel cage match was very memorable because I had grown up watching him have classic battles with Johnny Valentine, and that was a very, very big step in my career, even though I'd held some singles titles like the North American heavyweight title. But that whole era and that time, as I was kind of being groomed for a shot at the world's heavyweight title, and then having very intense matchups with Nikita Koloff and Tully Blanchard, was just a real special time capsule for about a 1.5 year period of time. That all those memories are. It's hard to say one out shines the other.
Okay, how did backstage politics affect your career?
I wouldn't say that it hindered my career, because I was 27 years old, kind of at the hadn't reached the height of what I was capable of doing. Wasn't anyone really trying to hold me back. The backstage, but there was real no backstage politics, because at that time Dusty Rhodes was the booker. He pretty much called the shots in the Crockett Promotions, and it's no secret we were pretty much joined at the hip and very good friends, and in and out the ring, and had been before he was running that successful organization. And so I didn't sit and ponder and think about those things like a lot of people did or had to or did later on, as there really did get to be some jousting around as I watched from the sidelines as things went on. But there's always politics. It didn't affect me just because I was kind of in a unique position in my friendship and my association with Jim Crockett and Dusty Rhodes, and then kind of being before everything just busted wide open.
Can you tell us about the best rib you've pulled on another wrestler, and also can you tell us about the rib that a wrestler pulled on you?
Well, I always live by the code of doing to others as they do unto you, or as you'd like them to do unto you. And I hated ribs. I absolutely despised them, and consequently, believe it or not, outside of the little practical things like Jimmy Garvin leaving me on the side of the road, jumping in my car, and as we pulled over to relieve ourselves out in the middle of Louisiana, leaving me on the side of a road and that kind of thing, eventually coming back to get me. I didn't have to suffer the slings and arrows that a lot of my counterparts did, because I didn't really derive a lot of pleasure by torturing people or being disrespectful of their property and those things. We worked hard and we played hard and we had fun, but I wasn't really in the midst of that that kind of those shenanigans. And there were some going on, but I didn't ever have anything super glued to the floor or have people pop in at very inopportune moments during some nightlife or anything like that. But I saw quite a bit of that going around me.
Okay. What's your opinion of backyard wrestling?
Well, I know that there's always someone out there that's wanting to emulate and try to duplicate the things they watch on television. It's probably a little known fact, but back in '86 when I broke my neck and I was in the hospital for a substantial period of time with a spinal cord injury and had been told I'd never walk again, there was a young black man, 17 years old, that he and his friend were playing wrestling. And he tried to belly-to-belly suplex his friend like he saw me do. and he broke his neck, paralyzed from the neck down, 17 years old, and he never walked again. When they say, leave it to the pros, no one has any idea the damage, someone can do to their body. We watch, the outlandish, high-risk maneuvers, things that Cactus Jack and Terry Funk and, different people have taken to new levels over the years. And even a seasoned pro, literally taking his health and his body in his own hands and taking huge risk. But these kids doing these things in the backyard, it's insanity. They're kids, and they're going to be crippled before they're 25. You watch guys like Terry Funk, who's a mature man, who's definitely got his scars and bruises, but can get around and he can still perform. And that's because he's a pro. And you don't learn those things out in the backyard. You get in a professional environment, get in a ring with someone who can teach you the pros and cons and why you do this now and why you don't, and then kind of take it from there. I've got a sports medicine doctor friend, Dr. Swanik in Charlotte, North Carolina, who's a ring doctor for some of these ultimate fighting things and whatnot. And we were just discussing this last week, and wrestling has gone to this new genre that we used to almost make light of the Japanese style, the Mexican style, this high flying, guys taking all these outlandish bumps and falls and bouncing back up like a Mexican jumping bean and then doing another one and another one and another one. And, wrestling has, come to a place where that kind of activity is expected by the modern day crowd. But it's not 175, 185 pound guys doing it. It's 200 to 300 pound guys that they want to see doing these things. And consequently, we've got more guys today with injuries that are much more catastrophic. Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, all these guys, Stone Cold Steve Austin, that have had cervical damage, to their vertebrae, and thankfully no permanent nerve damage. But your body can only take so much, and we're not seasonal athletes. We're not people that just gear up for one big event a year. You're doing it 360 plus days a year on an average, and constantly trying to outdo yourself and meet these expectations that the fans have come to know, and it's a real catch-22. So the backyard stuff, I would never try to make guys feel like that's a good avenue to get into the professional ranks. Undoubtedly, someone will, and there'll be some mystique around it then. But I remember, Paulie Dangerously in the things that he did in his wrestling organization. He pushed the edge with a real raw, hard-hitting style. But at least it was pros. At least it was guys, they put it out there on the ragged edge, but it produced a lot of guys with the right kind of skills, right work ethics, and did it in a professional way. And, some guy ends up crippled for the rest of his life, messing around jumping off a roof or trying to jump through a table, and it's going to be really sad.
What is your opinion of drug abuse in the pro wrestling industry, and how has it personally affected your life?
Well, it's affected my life because a lot of my friends are dead. A lot. And it's sad in that since from 1985, 86, I watched so many of my counterparts become addicted to prescription pain pills, and having things made so readily available to them. We've never been able to do anything in moderation. The drug of choice, has always been alcohol because that's so readily available and everybody, has a good time in parties. But in cocaine has certainly taken its toll on the athletic community. But something happened from about 86 through the mid-90s where with a mixture of pain pills and GHB and steroids and all these things, they got lumped together. Even guys who didn't die in their sleep did so much damage to their bodies that later on they just have these mysterious deaths. They do die in their sleep, or they do just not wake up one day and nobody knows why. And even after 2 or 3 years of total sobriety, they've done so much damage to their bodies over a course of time that it can't be reversed. And is sad because it's been so easily obtained by these performers who are athletes who live by this idea that the show must go on. You know, if you booked a match in the main events, Ric Flair against Hulk Hogan, that's who the people want to see, no matter whether one's blown a knee out or hurt a back or whatever. And it's an unfortunate circumstance, and the death toll is way too high for our industry compared to other professional athletics or other entertainment.
Okay. Where do you see the wrestling business 5 years from now?
It's always an evolution. It has been since the early 1900s. You know, I watch what's on television now. In the old days, we said, you know, if you hot shot it, if you run it into the ground, they won't come back. Vince McMahon, genius promoter that he is, reached out and grabbed not the wrestling community or the wrestling fan. He grabbed the world's attention and developed his own base of fan that reached out to the sports entertainment instead of the back country grassroots wrestling that historically has been there. And in doing so, he opened himself up to whatever the public wanted, we'll give them. And we've given and given and given so much today that I honestly don't know, you know, what will be next. It can't be more. We've seen more is better, more high flying. It's all been done. So the only thing I see that it can do is evolve back to a point of more of an athletic type competition that is being portrayed, with still the storylines in the background and still the interviews and still the intrigue, but to the point where maybe you watch and everyone says, oh, wrestling's just entertainment, and they think it's all fun. But if they ever can go back around a whole corner and someone new come into the arena, they capture their imagination, that they're so good that they believe maybe, just maybe, this guy's for real. And maybe he's bucking the system. And maybe, you know, he's a shoot fighter or ultimate type, you know, athlete that doesn't care about conforming to what the industry's been. Maybe that will spark something in a different direction, and maybe it won't. Maybe the Ultimate Fighting, you know, series that's on TV now, and that whole reality series type thing, maybe that's going to take over the genre. I don't know, but it can't keep being more excess. It can't be more sex, drugs, and rock and roll than it's been, because it's all out there. It's all been done, and short of coming up with a whole new cast of characters to do it, there's not really that many new things that can be done. So, you know, maybe it's like, you know, everything old becomes new again. Maybe it will go back full circle, and it can't go full circle to the point of being boring, and nobody's going to watch somebody work a headlock for 30 minutes like, you know, the golden age of wrestling, where you really painted a picture and told a story. But if you can see two combatants really go at it with tremendous intensity, that is so raw and so energetic that you know, they get on the edge of their seat, and you take them somewhere into a journey that they weren't prepared to go into when they came into this entertainment arena, that might bring it back. It might bring it around. But it's going to have to be something like that.
All right, we just got two more questions for you. You were expected to become a world champion, but you had your accident that totally changed your career. How has this affected your life?
Well, obviously it wasn't in my scope and my plan of things. You know, my goal, and as everyone's was at the time, was to, or I think, was aspire to be the world's champion, and I was on the precipice of it, and you know, feel like at 28 years old, if I had been able to achieve that title, you know, my career would have, you know, just kept climbing and keep spiraling up. Trying to overcome a spinal cord injury, overcome permanent nerve damage, and something that took me from being a very serious caliber athlete to someone who just had to put that same kind of effort in just getting up and getting from point A to point B. You know, made me have to reevaluate, made me have to reprioritize, not put the emphasis on the same things, and it took me years to to come to terms with the fact of the things that I couldn't do anymore. I've ended up running a successful business that I started in 1995. I've got a beautiful little son who's 9 years old with my ex-wife, and married now to a beautiful woman who brought with her 4 children from a previous marriage, and being able to enjoy those things in life and kind of put them in perspective is a good thing. I miss the performing. I'll never say I don't. I mean, I absolutely have never in this lifetime found anything that matches standing in the middle of 20,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs, when you've got them at that fever pitch. But there's more to life than just being the center of that kind of attention. And I'm still looking for ways to give back. I had some great support by people when I was in the hospital, and at that time it was very tough for me to even know how to show them my appreciation. But I try to show some of that appreciation just by the fact that I've persevered, and I haven't ended up crawled up inside a bottle somewhere or in a drug rehab or another statistic, in our world, and just let people know that keeping the faith and keeping your hope alive. Just because your one dream ends doesn't mean another dream isn't beginning.
And the last question is, do you have anything you want to say to the fans and other pro wrestlers out there who might watch this interview?
Well, just that it is a real brotherhood of men from basically now the last 100 years that have been down this road that we've all traveled in wrestling. And I miss that time as much as I miss the performing in the ring. I truly miss the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the fellowship of times that we spent together on the road, and in doing something that we love so much. We got to perform, and people give us all these accolades, and get paid crazy amounts of money for doing something that you would really have done for free just about, because it was so much fun to do. But just to realize that the journey is really what it's all about. It's everyone from the bottom of the card to the top of the card has got high spots in their memories and things that they look back on fondly. But it's something that does stay with you forever. I'm 46 years old and been out of the ring now for almost 20 years. But I still run into fans today that remember things more vividly than I do, can recall the most crazy of details about matches and things that happened. And, it made an effect on their lives. We got to be a part of their life. They saw us do interviews where we talked into the camera. They were sitting in their living rooms on their couches, and they felt like they shared our burdens. They shared our thrills, our joys, our heartbreaks, and it was a part of their life. And it's an honor to do something like that. And I think that the older wrestlers and the retired ones and the ones in semi-retired, all appreciate that. I'm not sure whether the young guys, the new guys, the stars of today, quite understand how many lives they really affect by what they do in the ring. I didn't realize it until in the blink of an eye, my world was turned upside down. But everything we do, there's someone watching, and we're having an effect on people's lives. And if you're going to take anything with you, just remember it's not just about the entertainment, it's about you're touching people and what you do.